Tonight on The Big Picture Live, we're going to bring you some news items that you're not going to hear anywhere else. Military vehicles and troops in American streets. Is martial law coming? France has petitioned to join BRICS, yes, BRICS, and leave G7. China says to Secretary Blinken and the United States, you will comply or there will be consequences. Former President Barack Obama calls for a digital fingerprint system to counter misinformation. The IRS, believe it or not, is invading homes and businesses. The WEF calls for a 75% reduction in private car ownership. Congress calls the UFO whistleblowers under oath before the committee. The Beatles are releasing a new album.
Finally.
With John Lennon.
Finally.
With
right?
John Lennon.
Woo!
And last but certainly not least, PETA has now rewrote the Bible to be vegan friendly. I can't even believe I'm reporting this. That and much more tonight on The Big Picture Live, right after this. All right, welcome to The Big Picture Live. We are your hosts, Larry and Sandy Ragland, and we are excited to be here. We got a lot of ground to cover tonight because a lot of stuff's going on in the world, Sandy. A lot of stuff.
As usual.
So this started breaking the other night. You came in there and you said, Larry, you're not going to believe what I'm seeing happening on the streets of America. And one night in several cities across America, and I don't know, now you may have... we haven't really seen each other that much today, so you may have information that I didn't even know you had. But I don't know if we've still really got any kind of confirmation of what was actually going on. But a couple of nights ago, military tanks were spotted in multiple U.S. cities, helicopters flying low, and military helicopters flying low in California. Twitter users were blowing up confused. And this article goes on to say that not only were military vehicles spotted, but residents of Larkspur, Idaho Falls, and other cities posted videos of military tanks on roads. Why are they rolling these tanks through the streets of our cities? Is something bad about to happen? One person asked. Tanks now seen on the ground in Idaho Falls, Idaho, adding another state to the list of recent sightings. What is going on? Summer National Guard training? Well, I remember that when I was a kid. You just don't see that hardly anymore on the streets.
Right.
But it's unusually, thank you for that super sticker, Josh, by the way, usually 2 weeks every summer. Sometimes it's a series of 2 weeks exercises. How do we know this? It happens every year. Hundreds of military vehicles crossing point A to point B, but this is different. And, of course, they're saying, don't worry, all is well, all is well. Can you imagine just being out in your backyard?
No.
Let's play this.
You see that flying low
I mean, look how
over
low
your
that is.
home,
Wow.
over the city? No.
No, I mean, and that ain't your regular helicopter.
That's your Osprey.
That's what's that called?
Osprey.
Is that like a hybrid of? It looks like a plane with
Here's the thing. It's so loud. It's just I'm sure you can feel the vibration in your home, and that's a statement vehicle right there.
That's
okay. You
look how
don't
low.
see that every day. And if
Wow.
you see that flying over the streets of your city or over your home, that's going to raise some alarm bells.
Yeah, look at that.
Right.
And that is a neighborhood. That was a house or something that just flew over. And it goes on to say that tanks and military recorded traveling throughout several U.S. cities. Military helicopters, this is just another of that. Tank group on the highway in Idaho Falls today. This is crazy, y'all.
Yeah.
This right here, we'll play this video. Let's see if I can do it. All right, so they're seeing these vehicles. Look, that's a tank.
That's your Abrams tank
That is a tank, y'all, on the highway.
on the highway.
What is a tank doing on the highway?
So people know this is unusual. Okay.
Yeah, that's unusual.
You know, look at them all lined up.
That's incredible. That's insane.
So people know this is unusual, and it's.
So are you hearing anything about what they're what kind of narrative they're trying to explain of what actually was going on?
All that I've seen or heard is trying to normalize it, because obviously people are upset and they have a ton of questions. So we got to tamp that down. We've got to make this seem like normal exercise, normal operation, normal movement of equipment. But some people are not buying it, and they're pushing back against that.
Here's another one. Martial law, unprecedented military movements being reported across the USA. This is it says this was Philadelphia, big city.
Right.
Those other ones were like in the country. This is a big city.
Idaho, California, but this is on the other side of the country.
Yeah, look at this. This is the city of Philadelphia.
Right.
And watch it make this turn. I love what this guy says. He says, "Oh, but I'm a conspiracy theorist who has done nothing but show you the whole world as a blueprint via military laws, regulations." Look at this. Can you imagine you're getting ready? These guys are getting ready to cross the road. They're in business suits. They're working.
Right.
They can't cross the road for this in a major U.S. city.
Not a full-on convoy, but, we're moving this equipment.
What in the world?
Step back. Do not step off the corner of the sidewalk. But I did listen to one person that I do trust pretty much, and he said absolutely it was not. What was the word you said? What was the title of that article?
Martial law. No martial law.
That it was not martial law, but, okay, so all we hear is war, war, war.
Yeah.
So even people that I listen to are talking about this country is stepping things up and possibly getting on a war footing. And this is in a big way. This is in a very highly visible way.
Yeah.
So, remains to be seen exactly what's going on. Certainly we can't count on our you-know-what to just come right out and tell us. And we can't count on the big media guys to come out and tell us. So,
So before we move off of this, what were you telling me last night about, because I asked you, I said, why Idaho Falls? You were telling me something about it was a very strategic point on the highway. Is that what you're saying?
So I think it's I-15 is a very strategic highway for that part of the country, for northwestern part of the country.
Connecting the country.
Right.
Connecting the country, moving things.
I could have missed it, but I thought the article said I-15.
We have some people maybe that from Idaho that can clarify.
If you heard or read that same article, my eyes were really struggling that night. It was very late at night, but I believe it was I-15 that is the northwestern route.
So let's shift gears here, and this article really caught my attention. Texas power grid demand is rising considerably already amid soaring temperatures. We've talked about the age of our power grid. Mm-hmm. We've talked about, we're being pushed electric, everything. Yes. But our power grid already can't handle what it's doing now. Listen to this. Power lines during this heat wave are expected to reach temperatures of 102 Fahrenheit, actual temperature in Dallas, Texas, June 12th. This was this past week. Through the heat wave caused electricity use in Texas to reach an all-time high, and the power grid remained largely stable without major issues. The Texas power grid is anticipating higher demand due to rising temperatures, with the state predicted to see dangerous heat this weekend. And it goes on to say that with this anticipated higher electric demand, the state's power grid generator operator said on June 14th, the grid conditions remain normal, but it said manages the power electric, and it goes on to tell us that dangerous heat is expected, and they are worried about what's going to happen because it tells them, in this article goes on to say that they don't know if the Texas power grid, because they had power outages, they had blackouts the last year, and several blackouts, and this is in Texas. This is not to mention other countries around the world. So
right.
This breaks my heart because this is dangerous.
I don't think we have clear-cut evidence, but sometimes it seems like they want to use Texas as a whipping boy.
Yeah.
So obviously we had the major outages last winter along about February of 2022, and several people died, and it was a very serious situation. And obviously they're talking about outages now, and it's the other extreme, the heat. But a lot of people don't know that we have three main grids in this country, and Texas is on their own grid.
Their own grid. Yep.
I think it's more, East Coast and more Western, and then Texas, that one state, has their own grid. So a lot of times I have to refer back to Southwest Airlines, and I think, why have they had such massive problems and others have not?
Yeah.
Are we trying to get them in line? Did they not get a memo or follow an instruction or get on board with some kind of program, and we need to convince them to get with the game?
It does.
So I don't know. It's just...
And if you'll think about it, it hadn't been that long. We were sitting here talking about all the attacks on substations.
Yes.
So a lot of those substations are still not back 100%.
No, and I was thinking about this before we came out tonight. Isn't it strange? It's not strange, but this is the scenario we go through. We tamp down, we press down on one narrative for a time frame. It's still only been a little over 3 months since we had the Silicon Valley Bank deal and the First Republic Bank deal.
That sounds like it feels like a year ago.
Right. How many and the power substation narrative, that was several months before that. So we did that for several weeks. Then we never talked about that again.
Never again.
So we move in these strange patterns.
But in those little towns, they can't not talk about it because they're struggling with it. Their power grid is in a mess.
Well,
so we've got just one thing after another.
There's another line of thinking that's developing more and more, and that is all of these internet outages that pop up for entire states, entire regions, if you're with a certain carrier. So when the story broke Saturday night and we were talking about it with all the movement of military equipment,
listen to this.
At that same time, I told you I'm going to check and see if this certain channel creator has a story on it, which they didn't at the time. But the very next morning, there was. He talked about it. He didn't know it could go either way as far as why this was happening, but he did talk about many people in the northwestern part of the country were experiencing an internet outage that lasted for quite a while.
And time out. So for the clarification, you're saying in the areas where these military vehicles were moving?
Well, at least on that side of the country. Okay. Because, we had on the East Coast, at least Pennsylvania that we know about. And then on the West Coast, we're talking about Idaho, or on the western part of the country, Idaho, California. And then right before we came out here today, I mentioned that a large portion of Alaska was experiencing
and supposedly due to the climate because the iceberg, went underwater and cut a line. And now they're saying these people in Alaska could not have internet until July. And this is all about communication. This is all about getting information. Well, that you're trying to find your own information.
The reason I want to even bring that up is because it seems like we're normalizing this to where I'm not even seeing this on major media. Not that I looked. But
we don't even watch major media.
I was looking at some alt news, and this is out there 2 of the last 3 days. But yet I haven't seen it in major media coverage. It seems like we're trying to normalize this to where, that just happens all the time.
Right. And, not long ago, we keep talking about not long ago, just a few weeks ago, we were talking about the G7 was meeting. And we talk a lot about BRICS. Yes. And if you know what BRICS is, that BRICS is the alternative to G7 that's basically ran by China and Russia, but several others are involved in it. And they are taking the forefront of, while the collapse of America as being the dominant strength and the dominant dollar, this broke yesterday or 2 or 3 days ago. And I'm telling you, when I saw this, I sent it to you. I said, we're covering this Monday night because to me, this is big news. France is one of the major parts of the G7, which meet every year, that have aligned themselves with the U.S. dollar. If you want more evidence that people knows the condition of America and the American dollar, look at this. France this week seeks invitation to join BRICS, possibly becoming the first G7 nation to switch sides. In a move that has surprised the BRIC nations and constituents, France President Emmanuel Macron has asked to attend this year's BRIC summit in South Africa this August in a move that appears to signal that France is looking to exit the G7. Sandy, this is crazy. Yes. It says, in essence, France believes that the European market is in crisis due to the sanctions against Russia, and future now belongs to BRICS. The future now belongs to BRICS, which has taken a large share of the market. France cannot overcome the economic crisis from which his country has been suffering the past 12 years and is torn apart by social conflicts. And its access to international markets is not what it used to be. Africa does not want France, consistently expelling French companies from the country of Central Africa. China limited France's options. Russia is now the enemy. India strengthens and intensifies relations with non-EU countries. The site explains. And it basically goes on to, give the details of why France is doing this. France has already made moves to circumvent the collapsing and rapidly devaluing U.S. dollar this year. And it goes on to say that in a surprise move in late March, China completed its first trade of liquefied natural gas in yuan. Does that say, how do you say that? Yuan?
Yuan.
Yuan. After France decided to sideswipe the dollar, ordering roughly 65,000 tons of LNG imported from the United Arab Emirates. So, Sandy, when you're talking about major players in the G7, major players moving over to BRICS, y'all. Russia and China. We've been trying to tell you on the big picture here, they are the most powerful forces in the world. I love my country. I still believe we're the greatest country in the world. I still believe that we got the most powerful military in the world, blah, blah, blah. I really believe that. But we are rapidly declining around the world.
Much of the world understands this, and they are planning, or they're thinking, a lot of them are already planning to become part of BRICS. They're petitioning, whatever. And here in America, how often do you even hear it talked about on the main media outlets?
Absolutely. You don't.
We have to depend on the alt news to even find out what's going on in other parts of the world. And we've talked about Operation Sandman, and, a lot of people thought it would happen in one sweeping move very quickly, but it's happening slowly, but it is happening.
Yeah, it was a drip, 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 but now that drip, like in your faucet, starts picking up steam. Yes. It's picking up steam. I want to read this one last quote here. It says, Macron, who had angered Western friends when in April made it clear that France and other allies should not continue to, quote, get caught up in crises that are not Europe's. Look at that concept, Biden, America. The question Europeans need to answer is this: is it in our interest to accelerate a crisis on Taiwan? Yeah. No. The worst thing would be for us to think that Europeans would become followers of this topic and take our cue from the U.S. agenda and a Chinese overaction. So not only are they saying, we're pulling out the G7, we don't let you know, NATO, we don't let you know, United Nations, we don't want to get involved in the war that's coming with China, because there's a war coming with China, while we are just doing everything we can do to signal we're ready to go to war with China. Yes. The other countries are saying, well, you know what? If that's the case, I'm getting away from the U.S. dollar, I'm getting away from the G7. I mean, we are in a very volatile situation right now.
These nations are positioning themselves and strengthening themselves, while we are going further down the hole in this country.
Absolutely.
The economy is really not good, and so many more people are losing their jobs. So many more companies are talking about just going out of business altogether, or maybe closing hundreds of locations. Yep. And it's a very bleak future.
Speaking of very bleak, June 18th, this week, yesterday, this is the Wall Street Journal, homeless numbers rise in U.S. cities. The Wall Street Journal finds sharper increases in recent years as pandemic-era protections end and housing costs climb. The number of homeless people counted on streets and in shelters around the United States has broadly risen just this year.
I can believe it.
The journal reviewed data from 150 entities that count homeless people in areas ranging from cities to entire states. More than 100 places reported increases in 2023 counts compared to 2022. And collectively, their numbers indicate the U.S. may see a sharper climb than in recent years. Major urban areas reporting data so far that have seen increases: Chicago, Miami, Boston, Phoenix. It underscores that advocates for the homeless say it's growing pressure on high housing costs and end of temporary pandemic protection. So basically saying what they're saying is it's not just drug addicts. No. It's people who had a home, who regular middle-class people who have now lost their job, and many of them are living on the streets. We covered that report just a few weeks ago where, people's living in RVs on the side, lining roads.
Lined up, butted up against each other.
It's heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking.
And these are not people that didn't want to work. but
Right.
things are going against them and they can't keep their head above water any longer. I mean, rising taxes, rising prices, being just pushed out of the job market, pushed out of the home market.
Yep. Yep. Listen to this. It says, we have increased homelessness and increased destabilization. Chief Executive of Community Shelter Board says this, a 22% homeless increase in just Columbus, Ohio alone. The annual point in time count there. My goodness, that's incredible. And it goes on to say roughly 400 organizations conduct a called point-in-time counts each year. These tallies are imperfect snapshots, but they're widely considered undercounts. These are undercounts with these kind of numbers. Yeah. And, you know, I've seen videos, and many of you have seen these videos, where you turn one corner on streets, some of these major streets, and it looks like a third world country inside of major U.S. cities.
Not only does it look like a third world country, but it could be very dangerous to be in those parts of those cities.
Yeah.
And because it looks like plight, well, guess what? It's probably going to harm the businesses that are in that area because people will not feel safe to go into those businesses. And it's just a very vicious cycle.
It is. Yeah. It says 67 of the 100 locales within the highest homeless counts last year, along with many others. Data shows 48 of those 67 reported an increase this year. Right. So of 67, we see an increase of 67 of them reporting an increase in homelessness. Those kind of numbers are not just, you know, a slight increase. That's a major increase. Yes. That means there are people, just about everybody is going to, in these big cities, are going to know somebody that's either homeless or struggling with homelessness. And, you know, and they're looking for the government to be the answer. But can I go ahead and tell you, spoiler alert, the government's not the answer. No. If the government was the answer, we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in. We're in the mess we're in because of the government.
Exactly.
Okay. So speaking of our government, you know, we talked a while ago about China. We talked about Taiwan. Well, this week, Secretary Blinken from the United States, I'll reserve my comments on Blinken, meets with Xi Jinping as China warns the United States, you must choose between cooperation or conflict. Now, before I read this article, just before we went on the air, I was listening to a live talk radio show here when I was getting ready, and they were playing the press conference from Blinken after he returned. And he was I couldn't believe that the actual U.S. media was asking him tough questions, but they kept trying to get him to admit, are you saying that basically everything you asked China to do, they flat told you no? Well, the answer was he would take 5 paragraphs to say, yes, they told us no on everything, but he wouldn't say that. So he just got embarrassed. Our country just sat down at this table, just like everything else happened, and we just got embarrassed by what not long ago was the equivalent of a third world country.
Well, let me ask you this. Is he potentially compromised concerning China the way questions are hanging over the heads of some of our other officials in this country?
Oh, you mean President Biden, Hunter Biden, laptop?
I wasn't going to say any names.
Bribery.
But
yeah. I could look. If you're compromised at the top,
right.
If you are, let's be real now. If you're compromised, allegedly, that's the word everybody uses to make sure they can say anything they want to say. Allegedly, if you're compromised at the top, then it flows down. Sure. It's the trickle down.
And if you've been compromised, what in the world makes you think you're going to convince the people that you're compromised with to do anything that you're asking them to do?
Yeah, so. United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Monday as America's top diplomat concluded a flying 2-day visit to Beijing. It says it was had been expected, but neither side had confirmed it would happen until just an hour before the talks, which are seen as a key to the success of the trip. News of the diplomatic head-to-head came after China told the U.S. earlier in the day it must choose between cooperation or conflict with Beijing, as both parties seek to navigate a diplomatic way forward amid fraught relations between the world's two largest economies. And I want to flip over to this next article here because this really delves into it even further. It says that China gave the United States an ultimatum, cooperation or conflict. The warning came from China's top foreign policy official, Wang Yi, in 3 hours after 3 hours of talks with Anthony Blinken. Mr. Blinken, the highest-ranking American diplomat to visit China in 5 years on his final day of this trip, two-day trip aimed at improving bilateral relations, which have sunk to their lowest point in decades. And the meeting between Mr. Blinken and Chinese leader Xi Jinping, it says it is necessary to make a choice between dialogue and confrontation, cooperation or conflict. Told Mr. Blinken that. He sat there and just took it. We must reverse the downward spiral of China-U.S. relations, push for a return to a healthy and stable track. And he goes on to say, basically, candid discussions. They did not expect major breakthroughs. And it goes on to say, if I can find this one part of this one article, here it is. Here's the other article. Basically updated today, China talks fail. And it says it's at the lowest point ever. And it says warning signs that have been a nasty meeting. Look, this is interesting here. Warning, this should have been your sign. This is the highest level officer in the United States to visit China in 5 years. And he gets off the plane. And there is not a single.
Where's the band? Where's the flowers?
There's Xi Jinping. None of the official staff is there. These are the equivalent of
slap in your face
of secretaries working the front desk out there. So let me say this: greeting them.
If what I'm hearing over and over again is true, that China's no longer picking up the phone and taking our calls, what would you expect anything else to send someone over there and try to get anything done?
Look at this. This just in. Beijing's trip to China was such an abject failure. China even refused to set up crisis military-to-military communications with the United States. In other words, they said, well, not only are we saying no to everything that you've asked us to do, we're not even going to give you a hotline.
Right.
Direct communication with Red Square that's in Russia, ain't it?
Yeah, that's Russia.
Yeah, sorry.
There is the color red confused you,
exactly.
Right?
So if you're getting ready to bomb us, where most of the time when you're in conflict with somebody, you've got a hotline to them. Right. They said we don't offer military to military communication with the United States. Get out of my country.
Yeah, so this is bad. It's actually horrible. It's probably totally unprecedented. But here's probably the worst thing. The rest of the world is seeing and hearing this.
Absolutely. And listen, if you hadn't smashed that like button, do it now. I see some of you already have. You're doing a great job. That's the best thing you can do, whether it's on Rumble or YouTube. It helps us. One more thing about China, and this one's extremely alarming because it just seems like everybody is going to China now.
Yes.
And the ones that, a lot like France and all these we hear, but these dudes we really don't need going to China. Taliban. The Taliban and China discusses banking cooperation. The Taliban's governor of the Afghan Central Bank met with Chinese envoy Wang Yi this week to discuss banking ties in businesses. The bank's spokesperson informed Reuters in this meeting, economy, banking relations, business, and some related topics were discussed. Although Beijing did not have formal diplomatic ties with the Taliban government, China is among the few countries that have maintained a diplomatic presence in Kabul since the Taliban took back the country following the United States' disastrous withdrawal in 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, the Taliban is the organization that was housing Osama bin Laden and all of the terrorist attacks that created the entire war on terror. And here we have China right there with America, and some people believe maybe even the largest economy in the world, and we have the largest well-known terrorist group in the world discussing banking cooperation with China. Unbelievable. I mean, you can't really say much about that, can you?
You don't even know how to process that, right?
You don't know how to process that. You don't know how. It's just one thing after the other. Listen, we try to tell you here. We say it over and over again. We're not talking about the Chinese people. We're not. We love the Chinese people. This is nothing against the Chinese people. This is the government, the communistic government leadership of China is evil. Now, the Chinese people are not evil, but the government is evil. Communism is demonic, and they play the long game. They have been working on this agenda to get us from within inside and to attack our economy, attack our confidence for generations.
Yes.
Do you know what? Just this past couple of months ago, Xi Jinping was in Russia meeting with Vladimir Putin. And as he's leaving, about to get on the plane, he looks at Vladimir Putin and says, "The world is about to shift and change." Listen to what he said. This is not a direct quote, but this is absolutely what he said. You can find it on YouTube. He says it to Vladimir Putin. "The world is about to change systematically greater than it has in 100 years.
Yes, I believe that.
And our two countries are leading it."
Yep.
He literally said that to Putin as he's getting on the plane.
Exactly.
Because they know it.
It's no surprise that they think that they're planning, but to feel released to come out and say that, that's another level.
And it's not just another level of confidence in yourself. It's another level of no confidence in America.
Hello.
There's no fear. There's no fear in America. Now, I know God's not giving us a spirit of fear.
No.
But we want other countries to fear us.
Right.
So that they won't invade us, okay?
Yeah.
That's what. If you don't believe that, you don't love your country.
Somebody needs to wake up and read the room. It's like we're going on business as usual.
Yeah.
While the floor is crumbling underneath us.
Absolutely.
And we just want to pretend like nothing's going on. Everything's fine.
Yeah. Got wars going on, but good thing is we ain't got no more diseases or pestilences to worry about.
Thank God for that. Except for
breaking news. World health officials now warn Americans about a deadly disease detected across the country. Them stinking little mosquito bugs. Health officials around the country are reporting cases and positive samples of the West Nile virus.
It's back.
Why will that thing not go away? In Iowa, the Department of Health and Human Services announced Friday that the first case of West Nile virus infection was reported this year in an older adult, aged 61 to 80 years, from Plymouth County. According to Fox News, the case was confirmed through a test at a state hygienic lab. Quote, warm summer weather means Iowans are spending more time outside. That's at Alabama education, which increases the risk of mosquito bites. Bites from infected mosquitoes are the primary method in which humans are infected with this virus. So they're saying that data from the Center for Disease Control showed that there were 13 cases this year, and those cases reported in Oregon, Arizona, Wyoming, Nebraska, Illinois, Louisiana, Georgia, South Carolina, and Pennsylvania, and 4 reported in the Copper State. Basically says they believe that this is going to surge, that this is just another thing. And you know what? I don't doubt it, but I put this in here just to show you. They always got to have something to keep fear in you.
Exactly.
I mean, my God, it's like you're going to get bit by a mosquito. I don't want you to get West Nile virus, but chances are you're not going to get West Nile virus. But, when one winds down, they got to make sure there's another one just over the corner.
Like you said, constantly keeping everybody in a state of fear.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the ones that loves to do that is this guy right here.
Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Gates is, he did not come into this world. In his mind, he did not come into this world to make a Windows operating system. Maybe he did, but somewhere along the way, he forgot all about computers. Bill Gates
He switched viruses, right?
Where's my laugh button? There's my rim shot. Look at there, my baby.
Maybe we should start calling him the Bill Gates of hell like the other people do.
Wow. Look what Sandy came loaded tonight, y'all. She's here all week. Try the veal. Try the veal. Yeah. Senator Rand Paul says this week, Man, I'll tell you one thing about Rand Paul. You can say what you want to say, but that dude ain't scared to say what's on his mind. He going to call anybody out.
They may come to his house and beat the snot out of him,
true.
but he's going to say it anyway,
They're
right?
going to leave him in his yard to die from beating the poor man to death.
Right at his house.
In his own house. Unbelievable.
But you keep going, Rand Paul. We love that spirit.
That's right. We love that Rand Paul spirit. He said, quote, Bill Gates is the largest funder of trying to find viruses in caves and bringing them back to big cities. Yeah. This is up there with the danger of nuclear war, but this is much more insidious. Yeah. Listen to what he says. Senator Rand Paul teed off on globalist Bill Gates Sunday. Notice nobody even calls him Microsoft founder anymore. They call him globalist, elitist, depopulation lover, funder of heavily intimidated that the billionaire's obsession with funding research into deadly viruses led directly to the COVID wah-wah. According to Fox News, Paul noted that Gates visited China last week. Why is he going back to China? Exactly. Bill Gates does not need to be in China after what?
They won't talk to our president, but they open their arms for Bill Gates.
I mean, what did we just come through that came out of China and Bill Gates is back in China? What? Bill Gates is the largest funder of trying. Watch this. Listen to what he's saying. It's fact. Trying to find these viruses. He's paying people to go in remote caves and bring bat viruses back to the cities.
This is brilliant.
I mean, my God, what a great idea. Quote, so what happened in China is they went 8 to 10 hours south of Wuhan, 200 to 300 feet deep in a cave, and found viruses and took them back to a city of 15 million people. There are many, many scientists who think that Bill Gates is wrong in funding this. You think? We don't need to be searching for viruses that may never interact with man. And worse than that, they bring the viruses that we may never interact with back to the lab, and then they manipulate them by combining them with other viruses to create viruses that don't exist in nature. By this has largely been funded by Bill Gates. Listen to this stat. This is fact, though. This is not just hyperbole. This is fact. He funds the World Health Organization more than most countries do. So there is a responsibility there. He says, I think he's inadvertently helped to create something that is the biggest danger to mankind right now and something that he has been funding. Wow. I mean, what do you think about it, Sandy? Bill Gates, you've heard a lot about Bill Gates, and probably a lot of it you want to say, but you don't feel comfortable to say. But right. Bill Gates is heavily involved in some nefarious things.
Absolutely. It's ridiculous. Why? There needs to be an uprising against him. All the things he's funding. He was asked in the continent of Africa, asked to, in at least certain parts, do not request to come with your vaccines to vaccinate our children.
Right.
Because they realize he's harming people.
Yeah, he is.
He's causing people to be sterilized so that they can't have any more children. He's harming our children. Yeah. It's he needs to be stopped.
And if I'm doing this on the fly, I don't have the notes here, so you can help me out if you remember this, but something Contagion, the mock thing that we were watching again that I've covered here in the past about 2024, I believe it was, or something, of a fake.
This was another tabletop exercise. By
the Bill Gates Foundation.
Well, if anybody out there knows or remembers Event 201 in the year 2019, preceded the outbreak of COVID-19.
And the pretend thing they went through was exactly what happened.
Right.
And the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation funded another one right at the end of the wah-wah, saying the next thing, and they made up this fictitious virus called SEERS, SEERS, and the other night we're watching Mike from Around the World, if y'all know who he is, and he talks about something going on in Japan. I'm just saying what he said. Allegedly, there is some kind of virus there that's called SEER.
And he feels like it's gaining ground.
Yes.
And that it's we're going to be hearing more about it soon. And you went back in some of your former shows. I don't know how far you went back, where you had already commented on an article from months ago.
It was about 3 or 4 months ago. And it was called SEERS. And Mike said this virus that is just growing in Japan is SEER. Yes. And I looked at her and I said, did he say SEER?
Yeah.
Because that was a supposedly fake virus, and now there's a virus that's called SEER instead of SEERS.
Right.
And so, but what we're trying to get to is this.
Right.
All of this was simulated both times
exactly
by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Exactly.
And he's one of the number one funders of the World Health Organization.
Yes.
I'm sure I'm getting flagged left and right now. But look, hey, we're going to take a chance. That's why we're on Rumble, because if this one kicks off, Rumble hopefully won't kick us off. There's a lot of stuff going on,
It
Sandy.
needs to be said. It's not talked about enough.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not talked about enough. And so look, I'm thankful that, I guess I am thankful for Windows, because before I ever got a Mac, I used Windows for a long time. And in fact, I wrote my book on a Windows computer. So there you go. Right. So I'll give you that, Bill. But he's long been out of the computer business. Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Gates is a dangerous man, and I'm just going to tell you right there.
We talked about how his father and mother was a eugenicist.
I guarantee most people don't know what she's about to say.
And so this is not anything new.
His mother and father were what?
At least one of his parents were an actual eugenicist who believe in basically the culling of those that they don't see or judge necessary or worthy.
Interesting.
We can't play God.
Right.
In trying to create life or end life or get rid of people or depopulate.
Right.
And clearly he wants to do that.
Yeah. And we know we're students of Scripture. We're pastors. We know this is where the world is going.
Certainly.
But we don't have to like it, and we don't have to stay silent about it.
No, we don't.
And we can stand up for our family.
We can call attention to this. We can speak out against this. We can inform people that don't have a clue that this is going on, that this is taking place.
Right.
And it's gaining steam.
It is gaining steam.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you what else is gaining steam. The mark of the beast, you can call us conspiracy theorists, Bible thumping, whatever you call it. The mark of the beast is real, y'all. Yeah. And the system is here. Yeah. Let me tell you, a couple of things went down this week. The International Monetary Fund has now officially pushing the global central bank digital currency platforms as cashless trend gains momentum. Breaking today, June 19th, IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgievna speaks during a panel discussion in Glasgow, Scotland, back in 2021. But this was what she said today. This is what they said today. Is working on a platform that would allow various central bank digital currencies, CBDC for short, on a global scale. She told participants at a conference, CBDCs should not be fragmented national propositions. To have more efficient and fair transactions, we need systems that connect countries. We need interoperability. Can you say that word?
Interoperability.
Thank you. Thank you so much. For this reason, at the IMF, we are working on the concept of a global, I can't even believe I'm reading this. For this reason, the Monetary Fund, the International Monetary Fund, we are working on the concept of a global CBDC platform. That is another words of saying this way. The IMF is working on a one world currency.
One world currency. And
did they not just say that?
Did we talk about a couple of weeks ago that they no longer deal with cash in Europe or England?
Most places, yeah. Most places, yeah.
And they're always ahead of us. We're always, a couple years or even maybe 20 years behind them in trends.
Right.
So you remember probably between 28 to 30 years ago that we in this country were being molded and influenced and basically having a learning curve about the cards we use now. Not
Right.
credit cards, but debit cards.
Yep.
How you would make purchases with debit cards. And
Yep.
it was this whole learning curve. And it took years to bring people into the reality and for them to get comfortable and for businesses to have the card readers
Yep.
that had, because businesses had used credit cards or store credit, especially gas stations
But
had
remember,
their
it was
own.
just like,
Right.
and you had to write it out and all that, and you had to.
But to go from using your gas station card
Yep.
that you would use for your purchases to
Yep.
you could now use a debit card tied to your personal bank account. That was a whole learning curve. It was a
a big
whole
one.
thing that we had to be moved into. Well, now that's we've gone through so many other phases and cycles now.
And they knew they couldn't do it all at one time.
Exactly.
But what we're at right now, they already
Exactly.
had in their mind.
Yes, of course. Of course. And even though they understand it takes a while for people to adopt these new practices in their life, it moves so much faster, so much swifter than it did 20 years ago.
So that was the International Monetary Fund. On the same week, listen, this is crazy. The United Nations, that was the International Monetary Fund. This week, the United Nations comes out and says they are planning a digital ID system linked to bank accounts.
That we definitely do not need.
Exactly. Do you see the one world currency? Happened right before us, and lo and behold, look where he's at. The picture that they pulled, World Economic Forum.
Well, when you talk about this
Easy
article and this ID, this identity, what I see is ultimate control.
Absolutely.
I see people, organizations, entities coming into your life, coming into your bank account.
Absolutely.
To take control, to control you.
Yes. And do you understand that CBDC is programmable, is what she's talking about. That means they can turn your money on and turn your money off. They can assign your money to certain days and assign your money to certain products. If you don't agree with a woke agenda or something like this, and the United Nations has the power, the IMF has the power to control your money, they can say, well, guess what? You can't buy groceries on Thursday.
Yeah.
You can't put gas in your car if you even got a gas fuel car anymore. You can't purchase this. You can't purchase that. We're going to punish you if your social score is not correct.
This is ultimate control.
It is. It is. Let's look at here. The United Nations, the plan, which is similar to the system developed by the World Economic Forum, imagine that, the creator of all narratives, is outlined in 3 new policy briefs from the United Nations titled, quote, A Global Digital Compact, Reforms to the International Financial Architecture and the Future of Outer Space Governance. What does that mean? What?
Oh my goodness.
What is this? How we pay the aliens when they come? What?
No, they're talking about people that are going to
When we travel in space to be able to pay for things?
when you go up to live on the
What does that mean?
when you go up to live on the ISS or the space hotel or whatever, the space city. Oh no.
The goal of the briefs is to advance the UN Secretary General and Antonio Guterres' vision for the future, originally titled Our Common Agenda. This vision should be given the green light in September 2024 during an event dubbed the Summit for the Future. Digital IDs will be linked with bank or mobile money accounts and can improve the delivery. It's always going to be improving. It's always for our better. It's for us, Sandy. It's for us. To improve the delivery of social protection coverage and serve to be a better reach eligible beneficiaries. Digital technologies may help to reduce leakage, errors, and costs in the design of social protection programs. So this is for our good. And
you know what? If you just go into those 2 paragraphs and invert everything it says to mean the opposite, that's probably an accurate statement of what they're trying to do and what's going to happen.
Yeah, this is like when you was a kid and you played opposite day. We're that's what this feels like sometimes. We're just reading opposite things.
Yeah, we're going to look into that space thing.
Yeah. I mean, come on. We're going to have to be able to pay for our food on the moon or something. I guess that's what it means. But the digital future, as envisioned by these groups, is going to be quite the opposite of an open, free, or human-centric However,
Thank
as
you.
far as the United Nations vision for a future global financial system, it is supposed to be harmonized with Agenda 2030. Here we go again.
That's exactly what we want to do. We want to harmonize with the 2030 agendas.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's what we want to do. And, you know, but we're not through with the digital fingerprints, because we got to bring somebody out of hiding. He's been in hiding.
He hasn't been in retirement, that's for sure.
No, he's not been in retirement. He may have something to do with some kind of shadow government going on, but there is the one that, you know, is deemed by the media to be untouchable. But Obama came out this week, former President Obama, and said, while we're at it, we need to have a digital fingerprint system. And I love how he says it, to counter misinformation. Listen to this. Former President Barack Obama suggested in a new interview the development of digital fingerprints to combat misinformation and to distinguish between true and misleading news for consumers. It's always for us. Obama sat down with his former White House senior advisor, David Axelrod, for a conversation on his podcast, The Axe Files. During the interview, Axelrod noted he's seen, quote, misinformation, disinformation, and deep fakes targeting Obama. Quote, as I've told people, because I was listen now, you remember anything about Obama, okay? You may love him or hate him, but he was pretty proud of himself. He said the word I a lot. He talked about I a lot. And listen to what he says. As I've told people, because I was the first digital president when I left office. I was probably the most recorded, filmed, photographed human in history, which is kind of a weird thing, responded Obama. Quote, but just the odds are that I was. And as a consequence, there's a lot of raw material out there. So according to Fox News, the former president added that the deep fakes, and y'all know what deep fakes are, digitally manipulated images, audio, and video that appear legitimate, started with a version of him dancing, saying dirty limericks. Okay? That technology is here now, continued Obama, who warned about the issue getting worse moving forward. So most immediately, we're going to have all these problems we have with misinformation before, but the next election cycle, how many knows it's always about the election and about for your good, will be worse. He then suggested digital fingerprints to discern truth from misinformation. Now, I want you to understand what he's saying here. He's not talking about it to buy something. He's not talking about it for a purchase. Listen to what Obama's saying. The need for us and for the general public, I think, is to be more discriminating consumers of news and information. The need for us over time to develop technologies to create watermarks or digital fingerprints so that we know what is true and what is not true. There's a whole bunch of work that's going to have to be done in the short term. It's really going to be up to the American people for this kind of say. So, Sandy, what he's saying is...
I know what he's saying, but I'm curious how he's going to accomplish it.
Exactly.
The image that's coming in my mind is former President Trump in that orange jumpsuit in that deep fake video from a couple of weeks or months ago.
When he's supposedly fighting the wrestlers.
So I get that, but how do you stop it?
Yeah. How do you stop it? How do you stop it? I don't know how you stop it. That's what we talk. That's when we do our AI report in just a few minutes. But you know, basically, he's saying a reporter is going to have to put a thumbprint and go into a system before that person posts a news article, so that this database can confirm that reporter is actually the real reporter. But
because it's so easy to take just a small clip, snip, whatever, of their voice and create an entire
3 seconds. 3 seconds is all it takes to mimic your voice.
3 report.
Seconds. Yep. But what I'm saying is, if that's what they're saying, but what that also means, if my fingerprint is in that database and I want to post something against a wah thing that's coming, and I say, okay, I'm ready to post this, and I put it down there, and I'm on a list, which I think I am on a list.
I think so too.
I think I'm definitely on a list, and all of a sudden, Larry Ragland is trying to tell the world about what he's found out that's the truth, that the narrative is not telling you. And then all of a sudden, everything all my social media, all my ability to post, gone before you ever get to it. So it's promoted as to stop disinformation, but what it really means is to stop any information that goes against our narrative.
CJ says you're on several lists.
I am on several lists. I am on several lists and proud to be on several lists. If you hadn't hit that like button yet, go ahead and hit that like button now because that helps us so much. If you watch it on Rumble, help us build Rumble. Follow us on Rumble and share and invite others to be a part of the Big Picture family. And the last thing we want to say about this, Sandy, before we move on to the next huge into the supernatural.
Look at all this talk about social
credit
credit scores
and
social scores.
Yep. All at the same time.
You know, it's just more about this normalizing and desensitizing us to all of this.
I'm gonna tell you what it is. It's what's that show we loved? I can't think of the name of it. Person of Interest. It's person of interest. Look at that picture. It's person of interest. It's person of interest. And if you had never watched that show, you need to watch it. New Department of Homeland Security documents reveal plans to assign social credit scores to Americans. The newly disclosed documents have revealed that Biden's Department of Homeland Security has entered into it. This is what blew my mind. This is right here in Birmingham. Did you see this part?
No.
Entered into a contract with the University of Alabama at Birmingham. UAB, Birmingham, Alabama. Right here where we live. In 2018 to develop a project dubbed Night Fury. This was just leaked recently. This was discovered. Designed to analyze and assign risk scores to all social media accounts. This was being designed right here in my hometown of Birmingham, Alabama. The Brennan Center for Justice obtained these documents through a public records request. Project Night Fury, aimed at utilizing AI. This is back in 2018, y'all. Utilizing AI to detect, and the reason I say that is just think how much more powerful AI is now. Than it was in 2018, to detect and evaluate social media accounts for connections to so-called, quote, there's that word again, disinformation and hate speech. By the way, if you do not agree with the alphabet lifestyle, that's hate speech in the eyes of the government, even if you quote scripture. The Department of Homeland Security's document stated the contractor, which is UAB, shall develop these attributes to create a methodology for developing a ranking or risk score associated with the identified accounts.
Is this only supposed to be for students?
No, the students were helping to develop it to be rolled out for the Department of Homeland Security.
Well, you know, this is just a bunch of lies, and because if this was going to be so helpful, so beneficial, why can't they slow down the murder rate in Birmingham?
And all the major cities of America.
Every morning you wake up to get the day's weather, you got to find out how many people just died the night before.
It is true. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
You get breaking news on your watch and your phone before you ever even make it in there to have a cup of coffee of how many people were shot.
This is ridiculous. This is just more about control. Okay, this isn't about helping stop crime. It's about figuring out how we can control and have predictive programming against the citizens.
Yeah. I want to read this one other part here. It says, it underscores the agency's continued interest in social media as a resource for analysis. This comes in the wake of earlier reports of CBP utilizing an AI-powered tool called BabelX, the Tower of Babel. This program was called BabelX that the government was using for analyzing travelers' social media accounts at U.S. borders. While Night Fury's focus was initially on, quote, counterterrorism, illegal opioid supply chains, transactional crime, and understanding, characterizing, and identifying the spread of disinformation from foreign cities, the document indicates that UAB's work was intended to, quote, scale to other Department of Homeland Security domains and build next generation capabilities.
Now that part I believe.
Wow. Wow.
I believe they're building next generation capabilities. Yeah.
That's incredible. That's in 2018.
Yes.
That's in 2018. AI was being used in 2018 to scour, programs were being developed to scour every social media account and dissect whether they felt like what they were posting and sharing and liking was disinformation or hate speech.
This is so alarming that this was happening. Why are we just now hearing about this?
Yeah.
5 years later, here.
And if we are just now hearing about this, you and I both know that that's planned for us to hear about it now to distract us from what we have not heard about that's being done. Case in point, has anybody heard about this? All across America, businesses and homes are being raided and entered by the IRS. You remember those armed IRS agents that we told you about? Look at this. Soviet-style intimidation.
Is this the Montana story?
I think it is. Armed IRS agents raid and close a gun shop. Look at this. Yeah, Montana. Representative Matt Rosendale, Republican from Montana, is demanding answers after he says a group of armed accountants. That's what IRS is, right?
Well,
just a bunch of accountants.
87,000 people.
87,000.
Well, that's what they told us.
Bought up, millions of dollars worth of ammo. The IRS.
Yep.
Armed IRS agents raided and temporarily closed a Montana gun shop in Great Falls Wednesday. Quote, this event is another example of President Biden weaponizing federal agencies to target and harass hardworking Americans for exercising their constitutional rights. 20 heavily armed federal agents pulled in behind Highwood Creek Outfitters owner Tom Van Hoos as he arrived at his shop Wednesday morning. IRS agents confiscated background check forms from the store. Confiscated background check forms.
Yeah, this is the weird thing about this story. They confiscated the background check forms
Think
of
about
the
it.
Customers.
The IRS. What's that got to do with taxes? The people's background checks would get their own constitutional Second Amendment right.
Maybe to build a database?
You think? From the store that contains sensitive personal information about all customers who have ever purchased a gun at the shop. Yeah. The forms do not include financial information, which is what the IRS is supposed to be about.
Exactly. Calling
the act an egregious breach of privacy that showed no regard for federal law. There is no circumstance in which 4473s would be necessary in an investigation spearheaded by the IRS. That's the background check form. Rosendale called the ATF and IRS to cease conducting these Soviet-style intimidation raids. Well, saying it's not just that, it's also homes. Look at this. This is another IRS story. The IRS makes another house call. Listen to this. Democrats and the media are deriding the House GOP's probe into abuses by government agencies. But we're glad Republicans are on the case, in particular regarding the Internal Revenue Service. In a Friday letter to IRS Commissioner Daniel Werfel, House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan demands answers about a bizarre and disturbing IRS house call. The letter recounts that on April 25th, a Marion, Ohio taxpayer received a visit from a man who claimed his name was Bill House and worked with the IRS Criminal Division. Said he needed to talk to her about an estate in which she was the fiduciary. She let him in despite having received no prior IRS communication. Mr. House claimed that she had not properly filled out estate forms and owed the IRS a substantial amount. Only when the taxpayer presented proof of paying all taxes on the estate did the agent reveal that his visit wasn't about the estate at all. It was about several supposed delinquent tax returns related to the descendant of the estate. Lied his way in to a home, to the sanctity of someone's home.
Right.
This is not only illegal, this is dangerous.
Yes, exactly.
This is going to get somebody hurt.
It is.
This is crazy, Sandy.
This
is the world we are living in right now is just crazy.
Yes,
it's about to get crazier. Got any comments on the IRS and those armed accountants?
This is alarming. It's upsetting. It's disturbing. People are being pushed and prodded and pushed and prodded, and some of them are at the breaking point.
Yeah.
You know?
They are. They are at the breaking point. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you something. I don't know what they're thinking. The ones you don't want to raid are gun shops and people who believe in the Second Amendment. Yeah. You don't want to raid them. Now, what I'm saying is because you know what I'm saying, but really that is the ones they're trying to control, because
we know there's an ongoing movement to basically confiscate all the guns, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Every one of these terrible mass shootings, just push us further towards the gun control.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we continue showing you how the world is trying to control you. And if you remember, one of the famous statements of the World Economic Forum that got adopted by the Obama administration, one of the officials, I can't remember who it was,
I think it was Rahm Emanuel.
Rahm Emanuel. Never let a good crisis go to waste. Go to waste. And because they understand that is in crisis, it is in chaos that you seize power.
Sure.
And watch
what
this
all
right.
happened after 9/11?
Think about it. Think about it. That was supposed to be temporary. Let me just say this right now. There is nothing that the government has ever temporarily done that has ever been taken away. It always stays.
Exactly.
Okay, so don't believe this. Well, this is just temporary. Panelists at a World Government Summit say, quote, a shock is going to be required to usher in the new world transformation that is needed.
They know this.
They know this.
They know this.
And now they're saying the quiet thing out loud.
Yep.
Esteemed colleagues at the World Government Summit believe that in order to advance and facilitate, quote, a new world transformation, some kind of shock must occur in order to influence the regime change.
Are they now using New World Transformation in place of New World Order?
Right, yeah. Because,
it's like going from UFO to UAP.
Yeah, right, exactly.
They'll never notice, right?
That's right. They'll never notice. UAP, they're sweet now. They're called UAPs. And now we don't want to have a New World Order. We just want to have a New World Transformation. Oh, and guess what? Because transformation is real big. Okay. Some of the guests at the WGS made this known in mid-February of this year. Professor Arturo Riz, the director of the World Competitiveness Center, these centers, these groups. What?
I'm going to start naming all these things. Okay.
Oh God.
I'm going to submit my suggestions.
And of course, Samir Saran, president of the Observer Researcher Foundation, tasked the question, quote, how will the world order change this decade, and what will it be like in 10 years? Midway through the discussion, Briss stated that he thinks, quote, a shock is needed to shift the current international framework away from the current world order. There it is.
Yeah, world order.
He contended that this transformation of the world order, this is almost hilarious.
It can't be gradual.
Cannot be gradual. How's this transition going to happen? I totally agree that the world order, this way it is built today, doesn't make any sense. Freedom does not make any sense. That is not in the line with the economic powers like India, Brazil, and Germany. They don't have a massive role in the international order. But to me, the big question is, how are we going to go through this transformation? It cannot be gradual. It has to be driven by a certain shock that will happen. So now we will consider the entire, and he goes on to say, we have a large part of the humankind of pandemic because we were all selfish. We were not willing to share. We were not willing to use the global institution to deliver responses to different parts of the world. We have lost people, so much more bloodshed. How much more bloodshed do we need to understand the transition is upon us? And they just sit up there. And if you notice how all these organizations all have blue backgrounds, white letters. Yeah. They all look the same. They've just got different names, but they all got the same background behind them because they're all the same.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, you got that continuity, you got that familiarity.
Yep. And but look, people say, well, that's because of the United Nations is blue. Of course, yeah. I got it. The World Health Organization is blue. I got it. Right. Yeah. But you know what else is blue? Mm-hmm. That is unelected. That is a blue background with white letters. that if the truth be known is giving the marching orders to all of them, the bugs. You shall eat the bugs.
It's entirely possible. He knows what's best for us, and he's hard at work trying to make it happen.
Now, if you don't know who this guy is, you have not been watching our show. If you don't know who this guy is, you're brand new to any kind of conspiracy. You have not ordered your tinfoil hat yet or anything like that, because you don't even need one, because we're not spinning conspiracy. This guy right here, Klaus Schwab, is it okay to call him evil? I mean, I don't want to be mean, but I think the dude's he's dealing with some demons. He's dealing with some demons.
He's the OG right there.
He's the OG.
He is the OG.
All right, this is the chairman of the World Economic Forum, ladies and gentlemen, and this is what came out this week. They have officially now said it out loud, what we've always thought that they meant. They have called for a 75% reduction. Notice this, not in cars, but in private car ownership. Listen to the wording. You have to pay attention to what they're actually saying. The World Economic Forum is calling for on all global governments to agree to new green agenda goals that will significantly reduce the number of cars that are privately owned by the public. The WEF is pushing for a staggering 75% reduction in the private ownership of cars, including electric vehicles, by 2050. Klaus Schwab's globalist organization argues that most of the world's population will be urban cities by 2050.
We're going to get you in that 15-minute city.
Exactly. Get you out of the country, get you out of having land, get you out of owning anything. Remember, he's the one that said you'll own nothing and be happy by 2030. Is that right?
I believe so.
That you'll own nothing and be happy. And the public won't be able to justify the need for a private car or the use of commercial air travel. They just threw that in there. In other words, not only are we going to reduce cars, we're going to reduce planes. You're not going to get to fly. And, of course, you're not going to want to fly. Who wants to fly when you can walk down the street and get everything you need?
But this is one of the first times I've seen the statement, even use of commercial air travel.
Yeah.
So is this going to start ramping up now, too?
Absolutely it is. I've seen several articles where the World Economic Forum has come out and said, and the United Nations has said, we must reduce, if we're going to reduce the carbon footprint, we've got to also reduce air travel.
Now, they mean for you.
For me. Not for them.
Not themselves.
Not for them.
No.
Just like, they all fly their private jets to Davos to talk about, carbon footprint. Their latest demand was exposed in a new report from the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal found the goal buried in a WEF briefing paper released last month called the Urban Mobility Scorecard Tool.
Oh, let me see that again. So he found this buried in a paper, and it's called the Urban Mobility Scorecard Tool. I'm going to be looking that up.
Yep. Benchmarking the transition to sustainable urban mobility. It points out that more than 2/3 of the world's population will be urban by 2050 and suggests people won't need to leave their local areas. They won't need to. It's not that they're going to tell them that they can't. They just won't want to. I mean, they won't want to. To meet the radical climate goals of the United Nations, the WEF, and the Paris Agreement, the report states that private vehicle ownership must be drastically reduced. Instead, the public must shift to public transportation and shared mobility. In other words, renting from someone else. To comply with WEF's green agenda goals, governments will need to unite to reduce vehicles from a potential 2.1 billion to 500 million. The target is a radical drop with fewer than 30 years to get to it. Wow. I got a feeling there's some Second Amendment dudes got the F-150s that's got a,
Right.
That's just saying,
well, if they raise the price of new vehicles much more, you won't have to worry about it because you won't be able to afford it anyway.
That's the truth.
It's just getting so out of hand, so crazy. But the audacity.
The audacity.
We're going to come up with a plan to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And you're going to do it.
Yeah.
We're going to find a way to make sure that you do it.
Yeah, and people, okay, so the thing is, you're going to want to stay home. And I will agree that the wah-wah has made a lot of people learn how to just stay home.
They got a lot of mileage out of this last 3 years of changing the way people think about things.
Work ethic.
Yes.
The whole thought about just taking a drive to work or taking a drive, going to a movie.
Things from home.
Yep. Everything's from home.
Having things sent to your home.
And another thing that happens, Sandy, is people, they digitize their home. They turn their home into a smart home.
I'm so glad we're doing this story. I started to say something about it.
Okay, so they like, if I'm going to stay home, that's my safe place.
That's my sanctuary.
That's my sanctuary.
It's my happy place.
My happy place. I'm so lazy. I don't want to walk down the hallway and check on my daughter or my son. I'm just going to pull up the app and look at them on a camera because I got cameras in every room. I got security sensors on every door and window that's hooked up to my doorbell. That's a camera. I've got cameras doing my whole house. I am secure.
Got those digital locks.
Got the digital locks where you can.
I can make sure that if the sink wasn't turned off.
Exactly. If the delivery guy, Amazon shows up and says, "Hey, I got a delivery. It's really sensitive package." Okay, man, let me open the door for you. So I can open the door for you from my digital door lock. Let them in. Watch them on the camera. Watch them come back out. Lock the door. Say, "Thank you, buddy. Have a good day." What a great concept and a great life.
Brilliant.
Bezos, Amazon.
Genius.
Just like Bill Gates changed the world. But I think a long time ago, just like Bill Gates forgot about Microsoft, I think Bezos ain't thought nothing about no books, ain't thought nothing about no delivery. He's trying to go to Mars too. But you know what else happened? His little company? Look at this article. Open the pod bay doors, Bezos. Amazon's security system shuts down man's entire smart home after the delivery worker claimed racism. I think I need to read that again. Yes. Amazon shuts down a man's entire smart home system remotely. It's his home.
Yes.
He paid them to secure it. And they heard from a delivery worker that something had to do, there was a racist event happened. We're not laughing at racism by no means. Well, I mean, we don't want nobody. We're just laughing at this article because, like so many other things,
when you think
it's proven to be a lie, but go ahead.
When you think you've got it all figured out, you've got it on lock. You know what's going to be great for your home and your life.
Yep.
And you agree to add this to your home.
Yep.
And the very thing you're counting on to take care of you
can't even
locks you out of your own house.
It reminds me of 2020. Is that what number? 2001. Space Odyssey 2001. I can't do that. I can't even remember the guy's name. Dave was the computer, right? I always mess it up.
Help us out.
CJ, who was it? You told me. Come on, waiting for you, CJ. Wait for you. I'm waiting for you. Tell me who it was. Who did the computer on 2001 talk to? Dave.
Yeah,
Dave. Okay.
It is.
Okay, it is Dave. Dave, I can't open that door for you, Dave. I love you, Dave. You mean the world to me, Dave. But
I'm sorry, I can't do that.
I'm sorry, I can't do that.
What was the computer's name?
Hal. I remember that part. Hal.
Hal 3000?
Yeah, Hal. Yeah, something like that. Hal says, I can't do that, Dave. So, look, what's Bezos' first name? Jeff. Oh, man, I thought I had a great joke. I thought his name was David.
No.
Okay, so Jeff Bezos. So earlier this month, Amazon locked a man out of his own account, disrupting his extensive smart home system. The suspension was driven by a delivery driver who claimed the man used a racial slur through an automated doorbell system. The only problem is the man captured the entire interaction on his security system. The communication to the worker was an automated greeting of, "Excuse me, can I help you?" It was how. Full disclosure, I got a doorbell thing that you can, like that. It's a doorbell camera, like many of you do. And you can record now an automated response. Like if you don't want to talk to them, it will detect a package and you can say, Can I help you? Can you please leave the package by the door? And it's just an automated thing. So this guy recorded something saying, excuse me, can I help you? So that was the version of Hal going, Dave, can I help you? And somehow that got turned into racism. But in a post to Medium, Brandon Jackson outlined how his smart home system was disrupted for a week.
Yeah, an entire week.
He was locked out of his house for a week by Amazon. Jackson unexpectedly found himself locked out of his Amazon account for nearly a week. Of course, I'm sure he could unlock it with his key, but he could not use any of his Amazon system stuff.
Yeah, you can't control all those things.
He couldn't control all that system, rendering his Amazon Echo devices unresponsive in an incident that highlights the potential flaws in smart home systems. A, quote, miscommunication between the delivery driver and an automated doorbell message led to the lockout. That's crazy, y'all. That's just crazy.
A miscommunication that could not be corrected.
For a week.
For 7 days.
For a week. So this goes back to control. This goes back to control.
Yes.
This goes back to scoring. This goes back to tracking. This goes back to you will obey. You will be good. You will be good. And if you're not good, the way we classify good, we'll turn your TV off. We'll turn your internet off. We'll turn your cell phone off. We'll lock your doors.
Right.
We won't let you have security. We won't get. We will come into your home.
Yeah.
We will raid your home.
You want to go renew your passport? You want to take a vacation?
Right.
You want to change apartments, move? All of it.
All of it.
Everything.
All of it.
Yeah.
It goes on to say this incident left me. I got to read this right here. This is his comment. He says, I finally regained access to my Amazon account after an unexpected, unwarranted lockout that lasted nearly a week. The incident left me with a house full of unresponsive devices, a silent Alexa, and a lot of questions. Alexa, how do you make a strawberry shortcake? Crickets. Alexa, are you there, baby? Are you there, baby? Alexa, you know I can't live without you, Alexa. Alexa, play Journey. Alexa, play me 80s classic rock. Alexa, where are you? Alexa, come back. Alexa, you're everything to me. And Alexa's over there going, yeah, I'm giving him the silent treatment. Mm-hmm. Sandy, this is a crazy world we live in.
It is crazy. Our grandparents couldn't have even conceived half of the things that are going on right now.
But we're not through. We still got about 30 minutes left in a 2-hour program, and we still got a great crowd in here. But it is time, Sandy. It is time. The part that everybody's been waiting on.
Okay.
I hear Uncle Jerry. Uncle Jerry is on his way.
Jimmy.
Jimmy. I don't even know my own name.
Jimmy.
There he is, Jimmy.
I missed you.
It's time for, come on, help me. Paranormal update. Oh, Uncle Jimmy.
Paranormal.
Oh, I love Uncle Jimmy. He's a good one.
He's precious.
He's precious. Now, as you know, most of you know this week that the whistleblower came out and said that we have in custody in the United States government and countries all around the world have also downed non-human origin aircraft, spacecraft, whatever you want to call it, that our government, this is according to him, allegedly, that we have been re-engineering, reverse engineering, and that we actually have bodies of non-human entities. This is his words. These are not my words. This is his words. Yeah. Well, apparently this guy, this whistleblower that came by, what's his name? Grush? No?
David Grush.
David Grush. Apparently people that are on both sides of the aisle agree that his credentials are what he says they are, and that he did have the security clearance that he said he has. People are taking him serious. And this broke this week. For the first time ever, this is going to happen as a result of this. This is the new whistleblower law that is supposed to protect whistleblowers to come forth and say things where their lives could be in jeopardy before.
And so before we get into this, obviously, Mr. Grush has come forward, it is believed, because of the whistleblower law, and he has certain protections because of this. And it's believed that he feels, not total freedom, but some freedom, more freedom than certainly has been expressed in the past, to come forward and talk about these things. But the thought is that more and more people will now come forth because they can benefit from the whistleblower law. Now, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, well, they just had a whistleblower conference that came right out after that, where there's about 3 or 4 guys that felt empowered.
You're talking about with Dr. Stephen Greer and the others?
Just this week.
Yeah.
And because they felt empowered by David Grush. And they like, if he can do this, then I can do it.
For reference, Dr. Stephen Greer has been out there for decades talking about this, but the others I had not seen or heard of.
Yeah, and they came forward. You could tell when you watch, some of them were actually a little afraid still. Because
that last guy, he had the most explosive testimony of all of them to me, and he did seem scared.
I'm actually going to play that on one of my coming exposés.
He said things. I've heard a lot, okay?
Yeah.
I've heard a lot.
Yeah.
But I had not heard what he said.
If you haven't watched, let me fire this up here. If you haven't seen this episode, go back and find this episode that I did just this past week, or Aliens Real, and you'll hear some things that you probably are not going to hear other places. But I'm showing you that to tell you that I'm going to be rolling out several shows like that, answering these questions. Glenn Galt, I just happened to look up there.
Yeah, I did too.
That was funny. Glenn, I'm saying, I got to be honest with you, that's funny.
We want photo evidence, Glenn.
He said, my ex was a non-human entity. Okay. Nothing again. And listen, if his ex is watching, we love you. Jesus loves you. Sorry, Glenn. But that was funny. I got a kick out of that. But let's look at this article here. Congressman heading up the UFO hearing after shocking whistleblower allegations were serious about this issue. We're serious about this issue, he said. On June 5th, journalists Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal, these are the ones that worked at the New York Times.
And for Leslie Kean, I have been watching her for years on different shows, and most of you, if you've seen her picture, you will recognize her from a lot of the TV shows.
Yeah. Is she the one that interviewed him on News Nation?
She has the short blonde hair with the dark rim glasses.
That's not her.
No, it's not her.
No, it's not her.
If you saw her, you would recognize her.
Okay. All right. We're responsible for when the New York Times first broke some things about the Pentagon acknowledging a UFO investigation program. Grush, the decorated military veteran and intelligence official who served in Afghanistan, formerly worked at the Big Long Alphabet, has alleged that there are black programs in the United States government dedicated to retrieval and attempted reverse engineering of vehicles of non-prosaic origin. Well, this senator goes on to say, in response to Grush's claims, this congressional hearing will take place. He said, I recently spoke with Representative Tim Burchett, Republican from Tennessee, one of the members of the Oversight Committee who will head up the hearing, in order to gain insight into how it will be conducted and what he expects to find. And I just want to read, there's several questions that you can find this article for yourself. This is on thedailywire.com. But this question, I really want y'all to see this, because this was something I was wondering about. Do you plan to have David Grush testify at the hearing, and do you plan to have other individuals with whom he's spoken regarding the allegations he's made, including the high-level officials who's reportedly talked to him, testify?
I'd be interested to know that as well.
He says, we would like to get him there. It's premature to say who we will have there. We'll release that when we get the okay from the committee chair of everybody that we've invited who's been cleared to come speak. So he's alluding to the fact that he's trying to get him there, but he may not get him there. Now I want to say something, Sandy. I want everybody to know, if you have not watched the show that I did on aliens, spoiler alert, I do not necessarily share my opinion on it. I am a believer of the Word of God. I believe that whatever is happening is of demonic origin. There are demonic things that are going on. So as soon as we started talking about aliens, I started seeing thumbs downs happening, and that's okay. We can take thumbs downs, but I get it.
Sure.
I get people, I don't want to hear about aliens. I don't want to hear about aliens.
Well, okay, I get that too, but guess what? You're hearing about it in other forms of media.
Right.
So I think it's prudent for the church.
Exactly.
I think it's prudent for the Christian to have a voice in this matter.
Absolutely.
Patricia, she's going crazy talking about Valiant Thor. Girl, you're just gonna throw it all out there tonight, aren't you?
You're talking Sandy's language here.
Yeah. I'll get with you later.
Yeah. But you're exactly right, Sandy. it's the whole thing about
why would we be silent?
Why?
Why would we not talk about this, and especially now?
Right, especially now. It's like the thing about, if you don't talk to your kids about, issues of intimacy,
sure,
then the world's going to give them their narrative. So you've got to be able to tell them God's word on things. And it's like, okay, if the world is talking about UFOs, and the world is talking about UFOs more than ever, then I'm telling you, the church has got to be able to talk about the issues.
We need to have a voice, because guess what? People in churches who have questions, they don't need to be getting their answers from worldly sources.
Absolutely. Yes. Now, earlier today, and I'm going to refresh this so I can get the latest numbers here. If I can find the refresh. Where's the refresh on here? There it is. I did a poll. I put a poll out on YouTube.
This was awesome.
And this is absolutely intriguing to me. This is intriguing to me. So if you have not seen this poll, you can still go vote on this poll. You just go to my YouTube channel, and you'll see there's where you can look at posts. And I've got a poll here. And this is 14 hours old. We've had 96 people vote. The question is, if UFOs or aliens are real, what are they? Right. Look at this. I mean, wow. If there's any doubt what the Big Picture family feels about these, it's pretty much settled tonight. Out of 96 votes, 95% says they are fallen angels or demons. Coming in second at only 2% is non-humans from other planets. And a three-way tie now, non-humans from other dimensions instead of planets, 1%. Complete hoax, not real at all, 1%. And secret military vehicles, 1%. That's the one that blew my mind. That's the one that blew my mind that and I'm not being critical, because if you voted in this poll, we appreciate your honesty.
Exactly. I found that most interesting.
Yeah.
While I can't prove it, I don't have proof of it, I do believe that our government has our own version of these anti-gravitic craft.
Well, those that follow this show know Standeo. And Standeo will firmly tell you that not only do we have them, he's either worked on them or witnessed them and created some of the technology that's being used in anti-gravity.
Okay, so one of the reasons why he left the country and went to Australia is because certain people found out he was working on this anti-gravitic technology at his home, in his own workshop, garage, or whatever. That's how he was pulled in to the program and then sent to Australia. Yes.
And he's not just a scientific expert. He's a man of God. This is a man of God. He truly loves the Lord, and he knows that. I believe
that. I love that man. He's
absolutely.
Awesome.
He is awesome. And he's so humble. And when it's off the air, he's still talking about the Lord to us. He believes that all of this what we're talking about, non-human origins, demons, whatever they are, he believes that they are also from a demonic intention, and they're all setting up the beast system. Yes. So I thought that was interesting. I wanted to show that to everybody. I encourage everybody, if you haven't voted in this poll.
I think you should do more polls.
Yeah, I
like this.
I think we should do more polls, But go ahead and vote on this poll and let us know what you think, because that's very, very intriguing to us. Now, remember, we are still right in the middle of...
Yes.
There he is. It's got the family resemblance.
Striking family resemblance.
Because this is the Paranormal Update. By the way, we don't believe in the paranormal. We believe in demons, and we cast them out, okay? We're just being funny and being silly. We don't believe in ghosts. We don't believe in all that kind of stuff.
I agree with Patricia. The fallen are working in our government.
My God.
And I want to thank Radinke.
Is he dropping stuff?
No, he did inform me that there was a new program today that I missed. So thank you, Radinke. Okay. I'll be checking that out.
All right. And by the way, I always tell you, we always go back and read all the live chat. So we don't have a chance to look at it all the time while we're doing the show, but we go back and look at it. And we're now looking at the live chat on Rumble. Rumble now has a live chat as well. So if you're in the live chat there, we'll be going back and watching that one as well.
Yes.
Now, this one right here, we're winding down, Sandy. Believe it or not, we've gone an hour and 45 minutes already. It's crazy. It's crazy.
And we shouldn't be surprised by this next article that you're bringing up.
So
we should have known this was coming.
And I know what I feel like's coming after this one is just going to be unbelievable.
Are you going to say it?
I believe Elvis is going to release another album.
Oh my gosh.
I believe Elvis is going to release another album.
Wow.
Because now he can. Remember on American Idol, he showed up and sang a duet with Celine Dion.
He did.
He showed up and sang a duet with Celine Dion on the stage. How many years ago was that? It was literally, what do they call that?
Hologram.
A hologram, and she's looking at him. They're singing in harmony. He was full size on the stage. That was years and years and years ago.
I don't even know how many years ago that was.
But look at this. The Beatles are officially releasing one final record. And of course, with AI. AI's already taken over the world, y'all. It's not coming. It's already taken over the world. Using AI assist to bring back John Lennon's voice. I was in either 7th or 8th grade when he was killed. 7th or 8th grade, y'all. He's been gone that long. Listen to what Paul McCartney said. It's kind of scary. Really? But exciting. Because it's the future. You think? We'll just have to see where that leads. What a statement. We'll just have to see where this leads. The Beatles, arguably one of the most popular and influential rock bands of all time, will be releasing a final record after decades since the band broke up in the early 1970s, but with an interesting caveat, using artificial intelligence to bring the studio album to fruition. Surviving member and bassist Paul McCartney recently told BBC Radio 4 that this will be, quote, the last Beatles record ever released, okay?
Don't be so sure.
Yeah, don't be so sure, yeah. Because after you gone, dude, they might could still be releasing.
They might still be cashing in after you're gone.
Quote, we just finished it up. It'll be released this year, McCartney revealed. The other surviving member and drummer, Ringo Starr, worked on this new album also. But the band and studio crew utilized AI to bring back John Lennon's voice to finish previously recorded songs that were never mastered from old demo tapes recorded before his death.
Okay, I want to stop right here.
Okay.
How do we know that this is even true? If we have this technology, maybe he never actually recorded those in the first place, and they just made them up.
Good point.
Yeah.
It says, but the band, and it goes on to say that from demo tapes recorded before his death, that AI was then able to isolate his vocals. What's this? This is where we're at right now that they're telling us about. Yeah. Isolate his vocals and extricate them. The famous musician said, Lennon was fatally shot in New York City in 1980. The tapes were gifted to McCartney from Lennon's widow, Yoko Ono. As, quote, we were able to take John's voice and get it pure through this AI so that then we could mix the record as you would normally do. So it gives you some sort of leeway. McCartney saw a new vision for his music and for the Beatles after he saw Peter Jackson, the well-known filmmaker and documentarist, revive archive clips and film for the documentary Get Back, the title from a song on the Beatles' last official studio album, Let It Be. He was able to extricate John's voice from a ropey little bit of cassette, which had John's voice and piano. He could separate them with AI. They could then tell the machine, that's a voice, this is a guitar, lose the guitar. And it did that. McCartney and crew had previously tried to splice together this album but never released it due to poor quality of Lennon's voice. McCartney noted, adding that the now-deceased lead guitarist George Harrison was not in favor of it because of the shoddy quality. It didn't have a very good title. It needed a bit of reworking, but had a beautiful verse and had John singing it. George didn't like it, the Beatles being a democracy. We didn't do it. But even McCartney, with his concerns and expansion of AI, said what we can do. I'm not on the internet that much, but people will say to me, oh, yeah, there's a track where John's singing one of my songs, and that's just AI. It's kind of scary but exciting, but it's the future, and we'll have to see where it leads. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just more evidence of what's coming and more evidence of what you see and what you hear. You will not know if it is real. Can I emphatically say, although I could be AI and lying to you right now. But I'm telling you, in the name of Jesus, I am really here She is really here.
Does that hurt?
I'm going to pitch you back.
Ow.
Ow. Okay. We're real. We're not AI. Now, we may be raptured. We may be going on to be in glory, and you're watching the replay of this, and you got left behind. Yeah. But right now, we're live and in the flesh and in the studio. But there's coming a time real quick, real quick. You will not know on the radio, on the television, in a movie.
Right.
You will not know if what you're watching and listening to is real.
Yeah, your gift of discernment better be kicking in.
You better believe it. Well,
you're going to need it.
Well, that rolls right over. We got two more short stories. That rolls right over to this because this is just a natural progression.
Of course.
The same week that the Beatles say that they're going to release a new album with John Lennon singing lead, the Grammy Awards has now officially said they will allow AI music to win awards.
This is so unfair. It's like allowing men in women's sports.
Exactly. Oh, but here's the caveat. But only if a physical contributor helped.
Yes.
That could mean they pushed the button. That could mean they turned the power on and said, Hal, make me a record. ChatGPT, create an entire 10-song album for me.
Yeah.
I'll be back after lunch.
Right.
Nominated for Best Album of the Year.
Well, we talked several weeks ago about one of our close friends asking ChatGPT to write him a song.
Exactly.
And he did 3 verses, a chorus, and a bridge.
And a bridge. And it was good.
And it was good.
He told him.
The parameters, yeah.
And then he told him what style to write it in.
Right.
And he wrote it in that style. And you could have literally put music to it, and it would have been a hit.
Exactly.
Oh, Lord. Recording Academy, the governing body behind the annual music awards show, the Grammys, has recently introduced a new clause that allows for artists and bands to have their AI songs nominated for an award, at least if one living person. Oh, my God. I mean, there's going to be nights that I'm reading the news that I will not be able to stop laughing.
The artists have already gone through this whole fight about downloads of their songs you know, all that. And I'm sure they lost a lot of money. How can you compete against AI? How is that going to hit you in your wallet?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they went from, we just heard there was a flashback. We were listening to something about a flashback to 1984. Yeah. And it said that year the Supreme Court said that it was not illegal for you to record a television show. Remember that?
On your VCR.
On your VCR. They had to have a ruling that it was not copyright infringement to record on your VCR.
And record your favorite episode of Cosby or whatever.
And we were laughing because we had forgot all about how the world was back then in 1984. And now it's like, you know, we don't care. I mean, it don't matter if it was us. You know, think about all the people, all the former artists that worked so hard, that learned how to play the instruments, paid their dues in the little dive bars and made their way up to Nashville or to Chicago or Detroit and went the hard way. Mm-hmm. Now you got some kid in his basement living with his mama going to say, hey, AI, make me an album and make me a millionaire. Bam. And he becomes a millionaire. Yeah. And living in his mama's basement, ain't never had to pay his dues.
Exactly.
That's the work ethic. That's all a part of the laziness that AI. Remember what our friend Noah Harari said. We'll have to do something to keep people satisfied. So we'll give them drugs and we'll give them video games and let the computers run the world.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
It really is. I mean, there's not words.
There's just not words. There's just not words. And then, wait a minute. Sorry. I got so excited about my intro. I hit the wrong button. But our last show of the night, our last article of the night, is the big one that you shake your head at.
Rich, right? Here.
I mean, you're gonna be glad. You may be glad. You may be sad that you made it to the end, because this is the world we live in. Oh. People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, otherwise known as PETA, is now selling a vegan-friendly AI Bible rewritten where Abraham now skips sacrificing Isaac and befriends a lamb instead. Adds a fictional storyline where Abraham and Sarah adopt a dog named Herbie.
Dear God.
It's called the book, Peter's version.
I got it.
Of the creation story.
They should give away free copies of this at that church that had an AI pastor.
Yeah, that's right.
Do the sermon last week.
That we talked about last week. Open up your vegan version
Everyone,
Bible.
when you leave today, you're going to be gifted a free copy.
You get a vegan Bible, and you get a vegan Bible, and everybody gets a vegan Bible.
What is this?
Okay, Sandy, let me read it, because it sounds like satire. It sounds like the Babylon Bee, but it's not. It really is available from PETA.
My head is like reeling.
For just $3.99, you can buy a vegan-friendly version of the Word of God. Well, that's not, when you hear some of the highlights or lowlights of this, you're going to laugh your head off and you're going to shake your head in disgust. This is an abomination. This is blasphemy.
It is an abomination.
Full-on blasphemy against God.
Adding to or taking away, you better
this
watch
is next
out.
level. This is next level.
You better watch out.
Well, that's not quite how it's advertised. People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals is selling an AI-crafted rewrite of the Bible that aligns the book of Genesis with the group's animal rights messaging. Produced as a digital download with a virtual vegan leather cover, the book, PETA's version of the creation story, is built as a first of its kind AI-generated vegan interpretation of the book of Genesis. According to PETA, the message in Genesis is that God created every sentient being. He saw that they were good, and he gave them greens for sustenance. The 75-page book uses ChatGPT, language learning model that demonstrated a shaky grasp of Orthodox theology, to reimagine the first book of the Bible, and reminds readers to treat every member of God's creation with love, kindness, and respect. Among the changes made by PETA to the Word of God includes referring to animals as beings rather than beasts or creatures. Another deviation is the use of plant fibers like hemp and bamboo as clothing rather than animal skins. So, in the Garden of Eden, when they were clothed with animal skins, they're now clothed with hemp. Okay. A significant change from the narrative of Genesis chapter 3, in which God made garments of an unidentified animal skin for Adam and his wife and clothed them. PETA's book also goes on to completely transform what most scholars consider to be an Old Testament foreshadowing of the sacrifice of Jesus on Calvary in the account of Abraham offering up his only son Isaac on Mount Moriah. Among other new interpretations in Genesis chapter 22, Abraham travels to the land of Moriah and befriends a gentle lamb to show his reverence and respect for God's creation rather than slaughtering a ram to demonstrate his faith. Much as human sacrifice, once a reality, is now outlawed all over the world. The animal rights group also inserted an entirely new storyline.
Oh, really? They should tell the Luciferians that.
Yeah. In Genesis chapter 21, where Abraham and Sarah were at the point in the text are 190 years old, respectively, add to their growing family by adopting a dog named Herbie. This is in the Bible. The passage reads, as they walked with Herbie, Sarah and Abraham thought of the importance of adopting dogs from shelters and rescue organizations rather than purchasing them from breeders. Wow, the father of the faith. What a man. They spoke on how buying a dog or a cat from a breeder or a pet shop contributes to the companion animal overpopulation crisis, as countless dogs and cats in shelters await loving homes while breeders continue to produce more puppies and kittens for profit.
Talk about going down a rabbit trail. They just went. We're not even going to try to stay with the original story. We're going to change everything.
A PETA U.S. spokesperson told the Christian Post that despite rewriting the first book of the Christian Bible, they have no plans to reimagine the sacred writings of other religions.
Oh, interesting.
So they're not going to rewrite the Quran? They're not going to rewrite the writings of Confucius, of Mahatma Gandhi? Yeah. We've only gotten as far as Genesis, so we're not getting ahead of ourselves. But we're against all animal sacrifice. There are wonderful ways to make personal sacrifices that involve celebrating EID with bloodshed, okay, without celebrating. So basically, they've rewrote the entire book of Genesis, and I just shudder to think about some of the other stories that are in Genesis with Moses and Noah and the flood. Wonder what they say about Noah and taking care of the animals. They're going to have some. I mean, is Noah the hero of the Peter Bible? I don't know. Wait a minute. When he gets off the boat, remember what God said? The most glorious part of the whole story, in my opinion, was when he got off the boat and all they'd ever ate before that would have made the vegans happy was leafy greens. And then the world changed when the Lord told Noah, kill and eat.
Yeah.
Woo! It was when the steaks and the hamburgers
Got a
came
feeling
in,
they're
baby.
definitely going to be changing that.
All right.
Thanks, Lou Daddy.
Yep. So the last thing I want to tell you, don't forget, if you want to give to our television ministry, we need some people to significantly, if this station is a blessing to you and you would like to see us go to millions of households and go into a world that is greater than this YouTube audience is, you can help us. And we got to move quickly. So if you'd like to give, we need some people to give significantly.
Yes.
Go to LarryRagland.com, click on the Give tab, and you'll see it there. Next week, we'll have a mailing address for you to be able to give to. We would appreciate any amount. We have several people who's already told us. And here's the cool thing I want to tell you as we get ready to leave the program tonight. We have a supporter out west. One of our supporters actually lives in Nevada that follows our ministry, loves our ministry, and has said that once we reach $5,000, this is mind-boggling that this is the case. Once we reach $5,000, they're going to match that with another $5,000.
Unbelievable.
And take it immediately to $10,000. So that's an incentive to you to help us give. We got to get to $5,000. And when we get to $5,000, it's going to become $10,000. And that will mean the studio time for 3 months worth of programs and development will be done. And all we have to do is raise the airtime. So if you'd like to give, we certainly appreciate that. Go to LarryRagland.com, click the Give tab, do your best, and whatever you do will be a blessing to us.
Will.
Any parting thoughts, Sandy?
Well, it's been another crazy show, I'll tell you that.
Another crazy show.
Every time I think we push the envelope, we just push it a little further the next week.
Yep. And we do thank our partners, all
Yes,
those
we
that partner with us on a monthly basis.
Possible. Yeah.
$5 a month just by clicking that join button below. And we're here every Monday night at 7 o'clock. Apparently, we're going to go 2 hours every week.
Apparently that's our new norm.
That's our new norm. And then every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, we're doing a verse-by-verse study of the book of Revelation. And don't forget to follow us on Rumble, rumble.com/Larry Ragland. And last but certainly not least, go check out the show that I just did, Our Aliens Real.
Yes, if you haven't seen this episode, you need to go check this show out.
Absolutely.
It's great.
And I'll just tell you, it is not going to be what you think it is. Okay, it's don't assume you know what I feel about it and my thoughts, and don't assume that you know what this program's about until you watch it. And I'll be looking for some more coming. So we love you guys.
Yes,
we love you all. We appreciate you being here tonight. We can't wait to read the live chat and see all the comments.
It's great to see all you new folks out there. I hope you come back next time.
Welcome to all our new Big Picture family. And like, share, subscribe, invite people to join us every Monday night at 7 o'clock, where we're always going to remind you that we ain't woke, but we are certainly awake. See you next time. God bless.
Good night.